The microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio, an easy way to do that as well. And I'm on the socials at The Stansbury Show today at 9. We'll take a look back. You and I have talked about this woman before, I believe Australia. Her goal was to sleep with, I think it was last year, it was like 365 people. She wanted to like kick it up a notch, if you will. She's trying to go through 600 sexual partners in 1 year. And so we'll figure out where she is. We'll give you an update now. You know, there's a time difference between Canton, Ohio and Australia there. So she may actually be, you know, still at work right now trying to get through it. You guessed right. She is, in fact, available to be seen on like a subscription-based service where you can pay her and watch her have sex with people and the like. She says, look, all of these guys, they all know what I'm up to, you know, what I'm up to. They all sign forms. They have to be willing to be filmed. It's all, you know, doing it for the gram and the content and the like, if you will. But the young lady's trying to make it through 600 sexual partners, not in her life. That would even be a lot, right? I feel like 600 would be a lot. Absolutely. She's trying to do this in 1 year. It's 4 or 10 years. All the good dudes you take, right? Like, we kind of know where that story's headed at some point, but we'll give you that update, that at 9 a.m. this morning. Okay. You, I, pretty much everybody in the country occasionally will poke fun at California. Oh my God, look at the hellscape that is Hollywood, right? Well, I'll see you later. And California can be crazy. I have lived there. It's been a long, long time since I've lived there, and I'm not sure I would move back. However, California is doing something that I think should be rolled out nationally. This is the most common sense thing I have seen California do. The plastic straw thing was nuts, right? The not arresting criminals thing ain't really working out, right? Like both those things are kind of bad. This is one of those things I've seen California do that should be rolled out every last damn place because of how common sense it really is. We'll get to California's one-click law, and we'll do that coming up 8 a.m. this very morning. 7 a.m. Are you a rule breaker? I'm willing to bet if we were just having beers at a bar on Friday night, and I phrased it a little differently, talked about breaking rules, I bet most people would probably fancy themselves as a little bit of a rule breaker. Maverick, if you will. Think outside the box. Can't conform me, man. One of a kind. Individual. We like to view ourselves this way. And occasionally, in certain situations, we can be that. I was in a corporate meeting yesterday. It was mostly hands folded over. Trying my hardest not to roll my eyes at some of the dumbest information I have ever heard in my life, right? But then you kind of get to like your part of the meeting. But like, you think I just sat there and talked trash about it all day? No, I kind of sat there, quietly left the phone in the studio, tried to pay attention the best I can. Was I breaking rules in there? No, broke one towards the end of the meeting, and we may talk about that at 7 o'clock a little bit. Are we rule breakers? And should we be a little bit more of a rule breaker? Piece of information I have here says maybe so. Also, 50 Cent now, a piece of an interview. Now, he's told this story on more than one pod and in more than one interview over the years. I remember hearing it back in the day, and it was like, oh, this is kind of a funny anecdote from 50 Cent about Diddy. It's kind of a funny anecdote. It's like, oh, that's a funny interview story. I get why you tell it. Okay, the way you're telling this is very funny. It is now going viral yet again and has people convinced without a shadow of a doubt, yeah, Did's up to something. He's guilty of stuff. I don't think the audio, if 50 Cent is telling the truth, comes off great for Diddy. Although nothing in it would suggest anything is criminal. So why are so many people lining up to use this against Diddy now? I'll air you that audio, and we'll take a look at that conversation. We will do that around 7 o'clock this morning. Yesterday, you and I got to talking about movies and documentaries a little bit. It's because a documentary will roll out on Netflix today, Mr. McMahon, all centered around Vince McMahon. He sat for the documentary, since then has put out a statement saying, dude, what you're seeing here, this is a hit job. I'll paraphrase. We talked about this a lot yesterday. That documentary does come out today. And I said, man, information. As they're telling you the internet's the worst thing that ever happened, and misinformation and information. Oh my God, gotta be on the lookout. Can't let them talk out loud because misinformation might be a little bit of a problem. And I said, movies have been the biggest form of misinformation of our lives. Inspired by, based on a true story. Once you roll those words across the screen, you can pretty much do anything you want to a story. You can keep the names the same if you want and completely change what happened. You can do that. You're allowed to do that in entertainment. And so, like, how many things about historical facts do you know because you're watching it in a movie and it's like, well, is that really what that is? Or does it just kind of go along with the movie and so it kind of made sense? I bring it up because a movie I'm actually excited to go to the theater to see, people are already upset about because of historical inaccuracies here. And so how much does this matter to you and I? Let's find out next here on The Stansberry Show.
The Stansberry Show. This show sucks. On Rock 106.
Welcome back to The Stansberry Show. We're at 8:45 this morning. You're scoring your haunted schoolhouse and laboratory tickets. Passing those out all week. Tomorrow, I have your Sonic Temple tickets. Metallica headlining 2 nights of that. We'll get you in tomorrow after 9 a.m. Yesterday, we spent a good portion of the show talking a little Vince McMahon. Documentary coming out today, docu-series from what I understand, rolling out today on Netflix, Mr. McMahon. He sat for this and then saw an early cut of it. It was like, don't like this. He's telling you that what's happening is they're conflating the character that he played on television, Mr. McMahon, and who he really is, Vince. Which is interesting because I always use a phrase on the show, maybe too often for some of it, that when something happens, you're not going to be judged by who you were in that moment. You're going to be judged by who you were leading up to the moment. Now, fair or not, but if you spend your time being the character of Mr. McMahon, and then something happens with Vince the human, fair or not, people are going to put it through that filter. That's what being in the public eye kind of is. That's what it means. They want you in the box you came in. They don't want you moving boxes around a whole lot. Nah, you're Vince McMahon, you're Vince, you're the guy on TV, and you got the kids, and off the top rope. This is what you do, just in box. Kind of what they want, what audiences want. I understand that. Totally understand. May not be fair to it. I'll also say, and this is, watch how easy I can make something sound like it makes sense. But how much acting is in acting? You ever notice? A lot of actors get typecast. Is that because we can't see them as something else? Or is it because you can't be something else? Are you acting really? Notice, now watch, I said, notice how fast I can make something sound like it makes sense. Ever notice Danny Masterson always kind of played the sexual creep in everything he was in? Kind of creepy? Yep, now in jail for rape. Ever notice Vince McMahon's character kind of creep? Hey, look at what's happening now with Vince McMahon. See how easy that makes sense? Right, now I only gave you 2 examples. Plenty of people have played a million roles who aren't, did not embody who that role is outside of it. Although I'll say about a lot of actors, Colin Farrell just said the other day about being in The Penguin. That's now on HBO Max. Heavy, awful, a lot of crime, a lot of this, a lot of that. I ended up having to watch a lot of animated stuff with kids and I had to pull myself out of it. So, Vince, were you acting as Mr. McMahon so long that it started to bleed over? Because that can happen too. So that docu-series, if you will, coming out, he says what you're seeing is not going to be really accurate. We talked about this a lot yesterday. It's like, well, who do you believe? Can I trust the subject matter? I mean, they clearly have an interest to tell me the story went one way, especially when the story is you've been accused of sexual exploitation, sex trafficking, essentially. I mean, he was demanding women sleep with him in his office and then sending them. The allegations are, by the way, he's paid money for that woman, other women, to go down hallways and sleep with other members of the WWE organization. So is he going to be like, yeah, did it. Let's keep rolling on the dock? Like, I don't know about that. So do you trust him? Now, we know Hollywood and filmmakers, and they want us entertained is way more than they want us informed, right? So get a little careless with this. It's like, yeah, we think this probably happened, so add this in here, right? Like, how much of that is this? I've said about not just this documentary, but documentaries for a while. I believe what we've done is made movies, called them documentaries, so we all feel smarter while we're sitting on our couches watching them. Feels like we got a little hoodwinked on that one, right? Does to me. I feel like we don't watch E anymore. All of this stuff is E True Hollywood Stories. You ever remember those? It's like, this is like, they're like behind the music. Like, not necessarily the hardest hitting journalism of all time. For me, the word documentary really should mean something different. I know it's not going to, and we're not putting the paste back in the tube and idealistic and all that stuff, and you'd be right. But for me, that's what that should mean. Doesn't. Am I going to watch that today? Yes. Do I think Vince is guilty of most things he's been accused of? Yeah, kind of do. Judged by who you were leading up to the moment. Fair enough. And it's okay that I judge it. I'm not on a jury. I'm on a classic rock station. Different. Drastic. Well, you just... That's not good. But I'll be sitting there on my couch watching this for sure. And I don't even care about wrestling and all that. But there is blood on the track. And isn't that just the most important thing in the world? Does this matter more when you start talking about historic events? Some say yes, some say no. And the new Denzel Washington movie gets us into this conversation. We'll do that next. On Rock 106.9. It's 330-450-7625 to text your studio. And at 9 a.m. this morning, a woman's trying to rank up 600 sexual partners. Not in her lifetime. This year. Try to get you an update on that story. I don't have an official counter on the headboard or anything, but like, she's been willing to update us. And we'll tell you where she's at, what she's doing. It seems like a lot of people to me in a year. That's a lot. That's like rock star ass. More even. I don't know. We'll try to figure that out 9 a.m. We were talking movies, documentaries, docuseries, movies, biopics, if you will, right? Like, how much do you even put stock in those? Like the Motley Crue movie on Netflix. Wasn't that great? Book was a lot better. Couldn't put the book down. I've read that book like 4 times. But it's also Motley telling you their story, so it's like, yeah, of course all this happened. It's like, yeah, right? You know, so there's that. When you start talking movies inspired by, based on, the creative license that comes with that. It's an interesting conversation because people are talking about what the internet has done to information, and it is twisted it up a good bit. I'm not denying that. I'm not standing out here as a shield for the internet. You know that. But movies have, I'm telling you, I think have everybody, myself included, I mean, a little bit of a convoluted version of what history really is. We don't talk about that in Kansas a lot of it. It's funny when Brett Ratner and, you know, all those directors out there, when they were the only ones doing it, it was like, hey, this isn't a problem. You're supposed to know the difference. You and I started talking amongst one another. Hey, I don't know about this misinformation stuff we got going. Right? I mean, that part gets a little tricky. Right? Scorsese, all those guys, whatever they want. I mean, just, flick that wand around and have everybody just convinced a version of this country that was there, wasn't, right? And there's examples all over the place. They say there's a new one. Now, the internet's, again, welcome to misinformation. I have not one, but 2 different release dates, Google is telling me, for Gladiator 2. One of them is November 15th, the second, November 22nd. Welcome to soft opens and this, you know what I mean, and all of that. Sometime in November, you're going to be able to get a ticket and go to the theater and see Gladiator 2. Now, this movie's been at the center of some controversies for a while because they used some, wait for it, new current music in the movie trailer. And I thought, is that really that big of a deal? Well, it's Gladiator, and you really shouldn't be doing that because, it's historical, and you don't do that. And it's like, all right, I guess that one doesn't bother me as much as it does other people. Even if you use it in the movie, I would like it less than if you just use really good, aggressive, classical music, which is where a lot of heavy metal stole their riffs from. And so, just use different instruments so it sounded heavier and added distortion. Oh my God, kick ass! I don't know about that classical pussy stuff. Same thing, but whatever. So you could do that. And I would rather it be classical style music. I would rather that. But if you use current music in it or whatever, I don't think it's necessarily the biggest sin. The problem is that people are saying, man, a lot of this stuff in this movie didn't happen. One thing they claim did not happen was a warrior mounted on a rhinoceros, even a non-computer generated one there, they say, charging at a group of gladiators. However, they say there's record of a rhino at the inauguration of the Colosseum in 80 BC, and it did not fight men, but a bull, bear, buffalo, bison, lion, and 2 steers. The other mention of rhinos in Rome are those of, menageries to be admired as exotic creatures. And again, I don't think most people are going to see, I don't think this problem lies within gladiator type movies. I don't. I really don't think most people are going to see the Russell Crowe Gladiator or now this new one that features Denzel Washington. People got a hair across their A about that too, and I don't get it. He's a fantastic actor. I just watched American Gangster again last night before bed. He's just one of those guys where it's like, Denzel, all right, I'm in. Movie may suck. I don't know, but I'll give him the chance. He's made only, I don't know, checks notes 9,000 things I love. So it's like, put him in Gladiator too. What the hell do I care? He's good at stuff. I want people who are good at things to get me to want to watch things. I don't understand the pushback on Denzel there. I really don't get it, but okay. And so, I don't think people are necessarily looking for that there. You make Napoleon, and it's not, up to snuff, and it's not what it is. I think that's a different thing. Oliver Stone, when you make the JFK movie, and it's like, well, this is what I think happened. It's like, well, misinformation. Now, again, that argument wasn't even really out there. I mean, we talked about the danger of cinema and that, and, everybody laughed at it then. Now, again, it's in your and I's hands, and now all of a sudden, nobody's laughing about it anymore. Huge problem, big. It's a problem, basic America. Huge problem. But I don't know if it's a problem with Gladiators on how accurate you're being. I'm trying to go see a movie to be entertained with Gladiator 2. Now, if you make a movie, let's say, okay, the Clinton thing was a pretty big scandal, right? Monica? I mean, that was a pretty big thing. There was a series about it on Hulu. Now, again, that's entertainment. But if you make a docu-series on what happened with Monica, that should feature absolutely no opinion and strictly just this is what happened. And in the time, I believe, now we'll never get here, that the docu-series then should be in order. We're telling you the story of what happened, so we're not starting in November and then, going back, and, oh yeah, in March this happened first though. No. Walk me through the timeline. I'm not sure that same expectation once you put Gladiator 2 into a theater, put Denzel Washington in it, and you give me, Young Jeezy in the soundtrack. I'm not sure that accuracy is to be expected. Docu-series, I'm saying that's a different conversation. And I think the misinformation that has happened on the screen is far worse than any misinformation that's happened on what people read. I know it's a screen in your hand too, and I know I kind of butchered that. But you want to know why? Because most people aren't reading articles, they're reading headlines. But people watch TV. They watch movies.
You're never too old for a good morning kiss. The Stansberry Show, Rock 106.9.
I'll get you into the haunted schoolhouse and laboratory. We'll do that 8:45 this morning. The number you need, 330-450-7625. Feel free to text that line at will over anything we're discussing. Which recently, over the last couple of days, has been a lot about Diddy, right? Yeah, I mean, he's all over the headline still. Behind bars, been charged officially, sex trafficking. A few other things as well. Racketeering is on that list. A few other charges. Denied bail more than once. Twice, if memory serves. And so now, he's just being assaulted on all sides. He's fighting a war on a lot of fronts right now. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not pulling off the violin. Not at all. I saw, it's one of these things now where everything he's ever done kind of looks creepy. Much like I've said, once you've seen a mugshot photo of somebody, it looks like they're guilty of the thing they're accused of, right? It's like, yeah, they did it. And now that we have heard what these allegations are and have seen him be charged officially, that's different. I mean, different. Versus just somebody pointing a finger and being like, hey, I think he did this. It's like, no, he's been charged. So everything Diddy's ever said out loud and in public is resurfacing and being viewed through this filter. That's going to be a hard game for him because when you're a celebrity, you're paid to talk out. Like I saw a video circulating a little bit yesterday of him addressing partygoers at one of his residences and telling kids, you have about an hour, and then this party's going, he says, and this does not sound great today, he said, this will turn into something you're going to want to attend when you get older. You know, he's like, and he leans into it a couple of good times to tell people, look, in an hour, we're going adult friendly. I don't think that necessarily means the freak off style parties. I think even that, if were happening, and I'm pretty sure at least a version of them was even after the adult version of the party got underway. Because even those, it wasn't like everybody in attendance, you don't want to know that this is going on. It's such a tough call with the freak offs and the you know what I mean, and the multi-partner sex and the orgy scenes and all of this, because like you want to be like, no way. But have you ever spent time on an internet porn site? Well, the online numbers after 7 p.m. of what people are looking at tells me you have, right? Maybe not all of you, but the good portion of you have, right? Okay. Walk through this examination with me. You ever see how large those orgy GB sections are? Is that because nobody's watching it? Now, let me flip that coin over. Because I've said about myself that while in porn viewing mode, you may find me watching a video that in that moment I'm like, dude, that's hot. Don't necessarily want that same action in my own bed. And that can happen, right? So like, I wanted to be like, well, I mean, like clearly somebody's into this stuff because we're watching it, but just because you're watching it to get turned on, much like if you watch a car thief movie doesn't mean you are actually going to go out and start stealing cars or even want to. No. But it's tough because everything Diddy ever said or did to anybody's now coming back, and it's kind of, you know, it's out to haunt him a little bit, including this piece of audio from 50. Now, he has told this story on more than one, like, interview type setting, pod, talk show, network show, whatever. I've heard this story a couple of times. I'm sure some of you have as well. But he's kind of talking about early on in the scene and when he started to get to know guys from other, you know, Cruisin labels and whatever. And he got to talking to Puff, Diddy, if you will. And apparently this is what happened.
It's like, yo, so when we gonna get the chance to, you know, to kick it, like we can just hang out. We gotta kick it. This is Puff. Okay. You telling me we gotta kick it and And he was like, yo, why don't we like go shopping or some I mean, like, I pay for it. And I was like, this nigga just sounded
Now, a lot to unpack here. You know what? Let's just get to the end of it.
I got the away from him. I was like, this is he was telling me he'd take me shopping. That was a fruit pop.
Call him a fruit pop. Now, first, let's just address that. Most people would be facing their own PR nightmare this morning after this has gone viral again yesterday because they were willing to use the term fruit pop. He's calling him gay, right? Negative, bad, cancel, get the fangs out, all the things. 50 kind of feels like one of those people you can't really do that to. He does. He kind of feels like, well, I've already made all my money. I'm powerful in TV. I put people in TV shows and roles and stuff now. And honestly, I'm not afraid. So like, I don't really care. So I don't think he's really going to face all that. A lot of times the canceling thing works better if somebody hasn't really made their bones yet. 50's got his money. He makes real moves and puts other people in situations where they earn a lot of money. He'll mostly be fine. But like the issue is this.
It's like, yo, when we gonna get the chance to, to kick it, like we can just hang out. We gotta kick it. This is awesome. Okay. You telling me we gotta kick it and he was like, yo, why don't we like go shopping or some I mean, like, I pay for it.
Okay. Now, the younger you are, the more likely you are to like go and hang out at the mall with your friends. Spend Saturday going to Foot Locker, you know what I mean? Get the new shoe, whatever. The younger you are, guys my age aren't really going to the mall shopping with their friends. It's just not a thing. I've aged out of that like version of this. Okay? Beyond that though, if you say to somebody, we can just go shopping, using this as, look, Diddy's guilty. At best, what this proves, at best, and I don't even think it comes close to doing this, but at best, it proves that Diddy wanted to have sex with 50 Cent. So some bisexuality, gay, okay, whatever. Gay and guilty of holding weapons to people's heads to force them into sex acts, wildly different things. And a little dangerous to conflate the two. Yes, it's another issue for Diddy where it's like, all right, man, people are going to point and kind of laugh because I've told you before that the homophobia running rampant in hip-hop is, unexcusable and has been forever, right? It's kind of one of those things. But this doesn't prove freak-offs in any of this stuff. It's a funny story. And yes, most guys, if you say, let's go hang out on Saturday, go to Foot Locker, that's a different thing than let's go shopping, I'll pay for it. Once you tell me you're paying for it, no, I'm going to end up paying for it because you're going to try to get your hand in my pants all damn day.
The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
8:45, we'll get you into the Haunted Schoolhouse and Laboratory. And tomorrow, Sonic Temple tickets. Been talking a little Diddy because, 50, a story he's told more than a few times in a couple of... He tried to take him shopping.
It's like, yo, when we gonna get the chance to, to kick it, like we can just hang out. We gotta kick it. This is awesome. Okay. You telling me we gotta kick it and he was like, yo, why don't we like go shopping or some I mean, like, I pay for it. And I was like, this nigga just sounded I got the away from him. I was like, this he was telling me he'd take me shopping.
And so, 50 was under the impression what Diddy was trying to do there was have the sex. And now it's a story because of, Diddy being incarcerated and being charged with, sex trafficking, racketeering, multiple other charges. And I said, well, hold on. We got to be careful here. This feels like a pretty big leap to make. Because, what did 50 Cent really say here? Let's say the story's true. And I think there's a better than average chance that it could be. Let's say it's 100% true. All that happened was a human being verbally tried to take their shot with another human being. I don't know, man. Kind of have to leave room for that one. Now, Diddy has to know that's called taking a shot for a reason, right? There's a risk of missing. There's a risk of a miss here. And what that may bring back in return. if we're going to operate under the premise that this story is true, and I believe there's a better than average chance that it is, why did Diddy feel comfortable taking a shot at 50? Was it something 50 was sending out? No. More than enough people in the entertainment industry are gay, pretending to be straight, bearding with another person, or bisexual, outright gay, mixture of both. Took a shot, took a gamble there. I want people to feel comfortable to be able to ask somebody out. And I do think asking somebody to take them shopping is asking them out. There's a go to the mall. Still, between two adult celebrities with like American Express black cards, that's a weird one, right? Like that's a weird one. That's a weird. Say, I have an apparel request. Can you call them and see if they'll send me 6 pairs of X? Celebs can do that. So that was a weird. That's not weird. Weird under the sense of if you didn't think Diddy was going, before the encounter, was interested in dating a man. I don't want anybody walking away thinking that he's calling being gay weird, right? Like, actually, quite the opposite. That's been my point thus far this morning. Is imagine being gay in America today. Diddy's incarcerated for horrific things, and how people are trying to prove he did it is by these that. From you? Not necessarily. Don't feel called out. Don't gotta get relax. We'll just talk. Day and a half? Sure. Do I again? We're trusting. If he's telling the truth, all it proves is Diddy kind of verbally took his shot. Doesn't prove anything else. There's another one of these. This one is different. Visually, kind of looks at Keenan like, not me, man, and put Diddy's hand, his own hand, back on Diddy's side of the couch, and then positions himself to sit sideways as to not be. Argument. Thank you. Alice in Chains. 4 days worth of shows, so there'll be more than a few people there, and we'll get you in starting tomorrow.
We go shopping or some I paid for it.
As well. And he just said, he goes, I thought it was a weird thing, because he's like, that's what a man says to a woman. And that's how 50 sees it. Like, you may be leading with the language, like, look, just so you know, this one, right? So, not necessarily crazy that 50 may think that. That's what I would think if my friend was like, hey, man, let's go shopping, I'll pay. I'll be like, what? Like, either A, you're trying to have sex with me, or worse, did you just try to make me feel bad about my place in my life or how much money I earn? Because, like, the second one, I get to hit you. The first one, I know I got to be like, all right, man, it's cool, I get it. You got a different vibe. That's not my scene. Like, cool, man, go with God and all that. But, like, if you try to put me down for how much money I make, I get to slap you around this parking lot a little bit. Right? Like, that's like, the second one, it's like, we need to figure this out now. I don't think it's crazy thinking for 50 to walk away thinking it. I think it's a little crazy that this is how we're going to try to bury Diddy. Yes, I think he's guilty of these things. Him being gay, I don't think proves anything. I don't think that's like, oh, that's what did it. There's, a lot of people are defending this saying, well, wait a minute, when did this happen? Especially in the arts, taking somebody under your wing, financing them a little. Somebody asked me, like, hey, man, how much stuff did Maxwell pay for that first year you worked with him on the radio? A lot. He did. A lot. And then I did it for an intern later down the road. I got a KISS fan on my text line, 330-450-7625. Said, yo, man, remember when Paul Stanley offered to take Slash shopping and buy him guitars? Well, what I'll say to that is, I've said for years that I feel pretty confident knowing Paul Stanley has had sexual relations with men. And I don't give a damn about it. Because first and foremost, I don't give a damn about it. And second, Detroit Rec City's pretty good. So, like, whatever. It's not a criminal act, right? But, like, okay, Jesus, you're not necessarily wrong. The father figure, usher you in, show you the rope thing. Okay, especially in the arts, that's a fair argument. Now, I believe The genesis of this story is at a wedding they were both attending, and Diddy just kind of was like saying, you need to dress better, right? And I think, and even that is like, well, then wasn't. But if I have the timeline correct, they were both pretty well established